That's right. The Giants are in some pretty deep doo-doo. This is Tim's New York Giants Red Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. Oh, at 2-6 and having the Washington Commanders at home on Sunday, potentially facing a 2-7 start. We kind of figured we'd be 2-7 going into the Carolina game. We broke down the schedule ad nauseum the first couple weeks, and we saw this coming. We got the order of the games of the wins wrong, but we saw this coming. I would say a good portion of the fan base was like, yeah, this is going to happen. And you got the NFL trade line coming up early November. And if you're going to be sitting there at 2-7, you need to be sellers. You can't do what you did with Saquon Barkley. You can't do what you did with Xavier McKinney. Hell, you can't do what you did with Landon Collins. You got to move on from some players. The names that you think you'd probably be moving on from are like the likes of Darius Slayton. Also maybe moving on from Isaiah Simmons. And there's a myriad of other players. I mean, you could literally even consider moving on from like Andrew Thomas or Dexter Lawrence. Because of the fact you have to think to yourself, is Dexter Lawrence going to still be at the top of his game when and if we finally get good? And you really have to look at that. Is he going to be that pivotal force, or is he going to be on the wrong side of 30? But we're not going to talk about trading Dexter Lawrence now, because we're not going to get that far into a panic move. But we are going to talk about trading both Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeaux. Because you have to remember that fateful draft day after the first round, Joe Shing sitting there. Yeah, like some people say I'm a genius, but how can you screw up 5 and 7? Well, Joe, you fucking did it. So kudos to you, Joe. You finally got something right. And it may not be what you wanted to get right, but you finally got something right. And it's not a out of the question thing. Let's talk about Evan Neal first. You still have next year remaining on his contract. You're going to have to pick up the 5th-year option in year 4 if a team wants to do that. He's played 1 snap this entire season, and that was off that disastrous 2-point abomination. So he's rested. You got to give him that. He's rested. He's not fitting into the system. You've had 3 different offensive line coaches work with him. No one seems to be able to reach him. Maybe it's time just to cut bait. He's got the size. He's got the strength. He's got the mobility. Well, allegedly. He's got the athleticism, allegedly. He should be a guy that's a road paver, allegedly. We all kind of knew he was going to struggle in pass protection. Maybe a change of scenery is the way to go. Because at this point in time, he's been relegated more, not only to the bench, not only to the doghouse, not only to the outhouse, any house you could possibly think about that is not near MetLife, that's where he's at right now. He's healthy. I don't understand why we didn't just kind of showcase him a little bit. See if we can't gauge some type of interest. See if we can't go somewhere with him. But we're just letting him rot on the bench. Is it an upper management move? Is it a Brian Daboll move? I don't know. But why not just turn around? Because we've said, you evidently...
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
...have no faith in the kid. So why not just try to get something for him? If it's a reclamation project and you feel like you cannot resurrect his career, if he cannot rise from the Phoenix, why not just move on? Why not find a team that's looking for a project guy, looking for a guy that's like a big swing, could be a swing tackle. Maybe you can turn him out and make him into a guard, do a little Eric Flowers thing. But I don't think he's ever going to do anything in New York. I don't think it's the flipping burgers comment. I just think management and or Daboll just don't want him here. Are you going to get much for him? No. Because like we've said a million times on the show before, one man's trash is sometimes just another man's garbage. Maybe you get a 6th round. Maybe you get a 7th round. I would think more likely you would get like a 7th rounder for him. Make it a conditional 6th if he meets some incentives in reference to playing a certain number of snaps. Sometimes, I never liked the old saying, well, it's addition by subtraction. No, you're subtracting the 7th overall pick from 2 years ago and basically giving up on him. But we've kind of reached that point. we've kind of reached the point where it's just like, listen, if he's not going to play, if he's not going to do anything, let's just move on from what we have. Move on, truck it on from Evan Neal. And I love it because everybody's blaming Evan Neal for that abominable play. I love it. Everyone's like, yeah, that was his fault. It was Evan Neal's fault. No, it was just a bad, stupid play. I mean, you got a guy with Andrew Thomas, and he can't even see the field with Andrew Thomas's injury. You have Joshua Zuda, who just got awful. You brought in Chris Hubbard, who was even worse. So why not just make the move, get a 7th, get him out of here, make him a developmental project for somebody else, make him another Matt from Connecticut out of him, and move on. The other person that I think we should move on from is Kayvon Thibodeaux. Hear me out on this one for a second. You went out and got the likes of, what about Brian Burns? You paid him $120 million. They are literally identical players. We have talked about this before. We have preached this before. Neither of them play the run extremely well. Neither of them can really drop back into pass protection extremely well. Their job is, in my mind, is to be a hand-in-the-dirt defensive lineman that has some giddy up and goes after the quarterback. And we've seen Kayvon kind of do his.
Hey kids, look over there. Who is it? It's Kayvon, the friendly pass rusher. Oh no, now he's gone.
He didn't get his 16 sacks that he said he was going to get during his rookie season. He did have his 11.5 last year. But we've talked about this before. The first 2 games of the season, he got very upset with the fan base and the media, then went on a little bit of tear, but I believe he had to put 7 sacks in like 3 games. And then at that point in time, I think he had a half a sack the last 6 games of the year. So he did his normal Kayvon disappearing act. When we've seen these guys team together, it just doesn't look right. The Giants defense has a liability already against the run-off tackle because of the fact that their strength is not going to be getting, these guys' strength is not holding and maintaining their assignments and holding the edge against the run. Or moving the play into the middle of the field so you have the likes of, moving them into Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence now and has been being used as a defensive end. He's already kind of quasi taken over the position of Kayvon Thibodeaux. And Brian Burns, if you take a look at his play over the last 3 games, has actually played better when Kayvon is not there. I mean, think about that for a second. He's already looking at 3 sacks compared to the 2 he had. He had a game high 8 tackles a couple weeks back. He looks like a different player. He literally even had a pass defense against Philadelphia. He's looking like a different player when he's the focal point going after the quarterback. When everyone else around him, especially Azeez Ojulari, is there to help support him. I think at certain points in times, you're sitting there relying on Kayvon Thibodeaux to be the same player that Brian Burns are. But we've said this before. There's going to reach a point. There's going to reach a crescendo. And we saw it in the first 2 weeks where neither one of them is going to have a sack because they both have a tendency to disappear. You're not going to trade Brian Burns because of the fact that you just signed him that $120 million deal. A valuable trade asset could be Kayvon Thibodeaux. You're going to have Azeez Ojulari, who you have to see if he can stay healthy. But the problem is he's going to be a free agent. So you have to kind of see what you can get for Kayvon. Because of the fact that I don't think either Kayvon or Brian Burns is going to excel with each other in the lineup because teams know I can when they're both in the game, I could go either off tackle left or off tackle right without any problems, without any issues whatsoever. So to avoid that, maybe trade Kayvon for an outside linebacker. Maybe trade Kayvon. I don't think you could get more than I think maybe you can get a high third. I think you could get a 3rd round pick for Kayvon, but I think you could also do like a 3 and a 6. You got a 2 and a 5 and a 7 for Burns. Kayvon still has that team friendly deal next year. You have the ability to pick up the 5th year option. I think a team would be smart to take a look at him. If you can get like a 3 and a 6 for Kayvon, I would make that move because I think you're going to be a better team and a better organization without him in the lineup, because it's going to allow Brian Burns to freelance more, because right now you're generating a lot of your pressure as well with the safeties. So allow Burns to go all over the field. Allow him to go wherever he wants. Allow him to do what he needs to do. But I don't think he's going to be given that freedom when he's kind of hamstringed with having Kayvon Thibodeaux on the other side, when then teams know, listen, all we got to do is push these guys both out to the edge, make them take their pass rushing route wide, and then I can have the center of the field. Get different players. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I say it a million times now. The Giants are a cut and paste team. We've cut and paste talent into this team that does not fit with each other. And I've said it before, I've given all the credit in the world for Shane Bowen that he adapted to his players. I thought he was going to bring in his system and make the players adapt to his system. He's not running the same defense that he ran in Tennessee. He's running a different style defense because he's playing to the strength of his players, and it's working. The problem is when you don't get the pass rush and you have a young secondary, you're going to have what happened kind of last week against Pittsburgh. And kind of what happened against Philadelphia. We've said it before. Yeah, some people say that I'm a genius, but really, how can you screw up 5 and 7? Congratulations, Joe, you did it. Oh, we're going to have a big old live stream on Sunday. Make sure you stay tuned for that. And once again, this is Tim Stewart Giants Straight Talk. And don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to ring that bell because you want to know why. That'll be awesome.